Hi, Peter. Hello, how are you?
Hi, how are you? It's good to meet you again.
Thank you so much. First of all, thank you very much for joining our meeting, Zoom meeting. I have different subjects we want your support on. So I will have some questions for you about Canadian international schools. But first of all, we want to know who are you? Could you please introduce yourself to us?
Sure, pleased to. So my name is Peter Froese. I am born and raised in the province of British Columbia. I have I started my career in as a teacher in grade 7 in British Columbia, and was quickly promoted to a vice principal. And so I did that for a few years, and then was promoted to becoming a principal and later on a superintendent. I have worked in, we call them public schools, and you might know them as private schools. We call them independent schools here in British
I
Columbia.
see.
And I was superintendent of a large independent school system here in British Columbia. And I was also the executive director for all independent schools in British Columbia, 310 of them for a number of years before I traveled off to China
Ah,
to become superintendent of 17 large schools that were teaching the British Columbia curriculum and giving dogwood diplomas to Chinese national students who wanted to go to universities in the West.
I see.
So I have written some material that has been published in education, but my strength is administration. I know how to run schools. I know how to help schools get started and help them through difficulties
Yeah.
and to enjoy their successes as well. So I have been in education my entire career. I have never done anything else other than being a teacher, an administrator, a superintendent, a system administrator. And I've enjoyed my career. I have a great love for children, and that's why I think I chose education. And I've been blessed by having the opportunity to work in Canada, to work in Germany. I worked there for 4 years as well, to work in China, and to do evaluations of schools as well all over the world. So I've been very fortunate to have a well-rounded career.
It's perfect. Thank you very much. What is the total number of credits required for graduation for British Columbian curriculum? And when we think about international Canadian schools, uh, what is the total number of credit?
Okay. I need to give you a little bit of background in terms of how the British Columbia curriculum works.
Yeah,
British Columbia provides curriculum from kindergarten to grade 12.
high 12 education system, right?
Yes. And so in the kindergarten to grade 12 education system, there are certain courses that schools are required to teach to their students. English language arts is a very important one. Mathematics, science, social studies, and you do that in Turkey as well. Physical education, physical and health education, art education, career education, applied skills. Those are the schools must teach those to students in kindergarten through to grade 9. Then there is a shift when you get to grade 10. In grade 10, 11, and 12, we call that the graduation program here in British Columbia.
Yeah.
So those courses that you take in grades 10, 11, and 12 are necessary to allow you to receive a Dogwood diploma once you finish those grades. And you are required to have 80 credits, 80. Of those, 52 of the credits are required courses. And they include courses such as language arts, 10, 11, and 12, social studies, 10 and 11, mathematics, science, very similar to what they were already taking in kindergarten to grade 9, but of a much more sophisticated level. More in-depth analysis into the skills and concepts that are required of the students. But here's the important thing. Though that would total 52 credits that you are required to take, all the rest of the credits can be taken through courses that students can choose in other disciplines that are recognized by British Columbia. For example, in the British Columbia program, you can, if you when you get your program going in Turkey, you can, let's say you wanted to do a course in, technology. You wanted a specific coding course, for example. You create a coding course, and you would submit that to the government for approval. And we would call that an authority, a board authority authorized course, BAA course. And that would count as one of the 4 credits that you would have to make up to come up with 80.
I see.
The minimum number of courses that you have to take in the British Columbia program are 80, but most students tend to do more than that. They tend to take more courses beyond the 80, and that's fine. It's not a problem, but they have to successfully graduate with 80 in order to receive the Dogwood diploma.
As you know, in Turkey, English is learning as a second language. And in Turkey, it is, really difficult to practice your English outside the school because Turkey has only one language, only Turkish spoken country. So what do you think about what should be the expected English proficiency level for each grade level? What do you think?
It's a difficult question to answer just in a conversation between you and me. But you've raised a very important question, because all of your students who would be taking the British Columbia curriculum are taking English as a second language, their primary language being Turkish.
Yes.
And the instruction in the Canadian program, British Columbia program, is English. So these students have a challenge. They have a challenge to make sure that their English language skills are sufficient to understand the concepts that are being taught in the curriculum. My recommendation is that English is taught at all levels, starting in kindergarten, that there is some English taught at all levels as you go through. My suggestion also is that once you get to the grade 8-9 level, that there is in some cases, a doubling up of English language requirements. In some international schools, in other places in the world, they, rather than teaching just one language arts course 10, for example, they require students to take 2 each year. So they're taking not 4 credits of language arts in grade 10, they're taking 8 credits. And the reason for that is to help them get the skills that they need to acquire the English language. Now, how is that assessed? The school would be required to set up a series of standards, and we call them in some cases levels 1 to 8, for example. A student that would be at level 8 would be very proficient in English. A student that would be at level 5 would struggle a bit in terms of the high school program, the graduation program. But generally, we would want our students, if it was a level 1 to 8, we would want them to come into grade 10 with approximately a level 6 to a level 7 of English language skills. And these are assessments that are available commercially, or if you need help in setting up a language program, I can help you with that.
We would be appreciated.
There are schools that have these programs, so it's wise to just borrow from other systems that have already done all that work. Why do it all over again? So yes, the English language is really important, that the school supports the students in all the way through to grade 12. Because even in grade 12, we have found that some students have graduated successfully, but they have struggled when they went to post-secondary universities, where they really had to write a more comprehensive paper, for example, and were not able to do that successfully. So you've raised a very good question. It's really important that we have a strong English language program.
Exactly.
In addition to continuing with the Turkish language, that can be, you can get credit in that all the way to grade 12 as well. And generally the kids get really high marks because they're so good in Turkish, in the Turkish language. So yeah, it's English is important, and we need to put systems in place to help the kids be successful.
Exactly. So we need your support on that point then.
I can help you with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much for your answers and for your explanations. These are all my questions for you. Thank you very much. Will our student receive a Canadian report card? Will our students be eligible for Canadian diploma?
Just to give you a quick overview of how education works in Canada. When we became an independent country in 1867, the federal government of the day said each province had to create its own education program. So in Turkey, you have one education program for all of your, I don't know what you call them, provinces, territories in Turkey, but they're guided by one central education ministry.
Yeah.
In Canada, each of the 10 provinces and the 2 territories, they each have their own education system. So there's a Ministry of Education in British Columbia, in Alberta, in Saskatchewan, all of the provinces. And so a parent might ask, well, okay, that's pretty confusing. What good does a diploma from British Columbia mean to them? I want a diploma from Canada. Well, technically you are getting a diploma from Canada. Each province delivers its own diploma, and each province manages their own student transcripts as well. So I know International Canadian Schools is interested in the British Columbia curriculum, so I'm going to speak specifically to that and then expand and let you know how it impacts a parent's choice of having their children go to universities in other locations outside of British Columbia. So in British Columbia, you are given a student record in kindergarten when you enroll in school, and that record keeps getting added in terms of the courses that the student completes. And at the end, they are given a student transcript, and that transcript recognizes all of the courses that they have taken successfully and their achievement levels in those courses. And then if they have successfully met the curricular requirements for a Dogwood diploma, they would also be given that Dogwood diploma. So they'll get a school completion certificate, they'll get a record of their transcripts, and they'll get a diploma. And now what can they do with that? Does that mean they can only go to a university in British Columbia, like UBC or Simon Fraser University? They can certainly go there, no problem. But they can go into any of the other provinces across Canada as well. We have an open education system. Teachers who are trained in British Columbia can teach in other provinces as well. And so a parent doesn't need to worry if they take a graduate with a high school diploma from Ontario, for example. That student can go to university in British Columbia. A student who has graduates from British Columbia, that student can go to Alberta or any other province, but they can also go anywhere in the United States. They can go anywhere in the UK. They can go anywhere in Australia, in New Zealand.
New Zealand.
English-speaking university they can get into. And in some cases, they can go into South Asia and attend Beijing University as well. Some Asian countries also recognize the value of the British Columbia education. I should point out that the British Columbia education is ranked very, very highly among the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, of which Turkey is a member, by the way. There are about 38 countries that are part of that, and they assess student learning every 2 years. And British Columbia is in the top 10. In some cases, they're at the very top when we're talking about science marks, when we're talking about English language development, when we're talking about mathematics. Canada does very well, British Columbia does very well, Alberta does very well, Ontario does very well. The other ones are a little lower down, but overall, Canada is ranked very, very high by the OECD. So parents can feel secure in knowing that if they have a BC diploma, they will be able to have, they will create a number of opportunities for their students to go pretty well anywhere in the globe they wish to go. They've got very successful results. So yeah. It's a good diploma, well recognized internationally.
That's awesome. Very nice opportunity for our students.
It is.
Yeah. So I think it would be better for us to talk about also the facilities. Are there any requirements for BC curriculum facilities? Could you please tell us about that also?
Sure. So if the curriculum that is provided by British Columbia also requires that the school provide specific facilities for students as well. One of them obviously is a classroom. Also linked to the classroom is a library with resources in English and in Turkish, and areas of study, for example. It also requires that there be a gymnasium where students can exercise physically and health education. In the sciences, it is important there be laboratories, labs, science labs, to teach basically the physics, general science, and chemistry, etc. Those need to be available. The program also wants to see a strong emphasis on technology and a focus on careers, that we are preparing students not just for English language programs, but they're also preparing them for the skills that they will need in when they leave the school. Not all students will go into post-secondary universities to take an academic program. Yeah. Some of them will go into a trades program, for example, and so there's some of those skills need to be prepared in the high school as well. Something that I should point out, in order to have the privilege to teach the BC curriculum, the province of British Columbia requires that the school be inspected every year by ministry-approved inspectors. And so they would come in and spend 2 days, sometimes longer, and they will go through all of the administrative functions of the schools. They'll look through student records and teacher records. They will look through the curriculum that is being delivered. They will observe what's happening in the classroom. And that happens every year. So the province of British Columbia is very rigorous in ensuring that the quality of education is strong in any school that has been approved for certification to deliver the BC curriculum. Facilities are one thing, and the inspection process of monitoring that program is also one of the strengths of the BC program.
I see. Yeah. Thank you very much for your answers.
You're welcome.